Hello, and you're all very welcome along to the latest episode of Champ.ie's Road to Cheltenham Challenge, brought to you in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates.Racing. Talking all things Cheltenham, the top performances over the 7 days, and answering your hashtag big questions every Monday. Barry and Rona will once again go head to head by giving one Ante-Post selection each week until the 2024 festival in March.
It is Lossiemouth who has the lead at the last. Lossiemouth is over by 2 lengths from centre. Then Gowran with 200 yards to race. It is Lossiemouth at the moment keeping up the gallop, keeping a 2-length advantage over Gowran, who's moved past centre, but neither will move past Lossiemouth, who wins the JCB Triumph Hurdle.
Showing over 44 points profit and 132 point stake since 2020, the Champ.ie Road to Cheltenham Challenge show is this season bidding to secure 4 years of Ante-Post profit in a row. The lads look forward to discussing your selection this week, and don't forget it's important to update your full Ante-Post portfolio in the comments to help us keep track. Give this video a like for more Cheltenham content, and be sure to subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, Ireland's premier racing podcast. Enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 17 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. 8 days to the Cheltenham Festival, 7 days, Ronan Groome, to Christmas Eve. And of course, today we were rocked by the news, not just Constitution Hill, but Marine Nationale out of the Cheltenham Festival as well. Disappointment for Connections, but big shake-ups in the market.
Yeah, but as you said, half expecting Constitution Hill, you know, we were nearly ready for that. I suppose it was looking like it was 50-50 over the weekend, if even. But Marine Nationale is one from left field that no one was really expecting. So it's a pity, you know, because there was obviously, it was kind of a with or against horse, and there's a lot of people willing to take those prices that he was going to be back to his best. So it's pity he's not going to run. The Arkle is still wide open, and obviously now State Man into very short odds for the Champion Hurdle and possibly Irish Point. Gordon sounding like he wants to go that way as well. So it's I suppose the Champion Hurdle is still interesting. Obviously sad not to see Constitution Hill there, but we go on, we kick on.
We certainly do. And the Arkle, an even bigger puzzle now, I think, than it was before the news broke this evening. Show proudly in association with Boylesports, our betting partner, Syndicates.Racing, the syndicate that gets you to the big days for very affordable prices. Gowran Park Racecourse, of course, the premier racecourse in the southeast of Ireland. Don't forget to get your tickets for Shamrock Chase Day this upcoming weekend. We look forward to being down in Gowran, and it's the Racing and Rugby Day. Of course, Ireland take on England in Twickenham, which is always of interest to lots of people except me, Ronan Groome, because I've absolutely zero interest in the rugby. But 33% off nonetheless. And look, if you're into the rugby, I'm sure it's going to be a big, big day down in Gowran Park from a racing perspective as well on the eve of Cheltenham. KCLR, of course, our radio partner in the southeast of Ireland, Kilkenny, Carlow local radio station. So, brilliant to be partnering up with the guys once again. On this episode, Ronan, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, I suppose, 10 of the top trends across the festival. You hear lots about trends. You hear plenty of people using stats to back up their arguments, but we're going to take 10 big trends that we felt could be significant at the Cheltenham Festival. And I suppose we're going to say yay or nay, or a tick, give it a green tick or give it an X in terms of, you know, whether we're going to, I suppose, back the trend this season or maybe go against the trend. So in the respective races. So that's what we're going to do on this episode. Tomorrow, which is obviously, as we're recording, Tuesday the 5th, we're going to put out a quick fire episode just with more selections, our episode 18 selections. And then obviously we're counting down. We only have 2 episodes left after that. And obviously our captains to play as well. So thank you everyone for, I suppose, continuing to engage down below in the comments, updating your portfolios. It's going to help us out because we have to pick a winner, of course, of the VIP trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival, which will, of course, be our last episode, episode 20 of the series on the Monday night before Cheltenham. So lots to look forward to, still plenty to play for Ronan Groome. I should just mention that we're going to dedicate a whole episode on Wednesday to a Q&A. So anyone that's been following the series that has a Cheltenham-related question, we want to hear from you. Put it down in the comments below, as well as updating your portfolio. We have a whole show to fill on Wednesday, so get your Cheltenham-related questions down below. No matter what it is, put it down below, and we look forward to discussing on Wednesday. First stat, Ronan Groome, the Ultima. The Irish have a poor record in the race, Tony Martin was the last Irish trainer to win the race back in 2006, 17 years ago. Is this a statistic that you're willing to back at this year's festival, or are you willing to go against the grain or go against the statistics and actually consider backing an Irish horse in the Ultima this year?
I wouldn't mind backing an Irish horse in the Ultima for sure. Trends and stats like this, it's all about how you interpret them, Basil, really. If you look at that and you have to ask yourself, so why is that the case? Why has there been no Irish winner since Dundera? And there's lots of reasons why. If you go back through the years, you often find there might have only been one or two Irish horses in the race. So of course we're going to have a bad record, etc. There's a couple of reasons for this, I think. I think a lot of the Irish horses now, and I'm a big follower of Matt Toombs on Twitter. He's very good with the trends, expert in this sort of field, and he always makes the point, well, it's more attractive for an Irish trained horse to go and get qualified for the Kim Muir, because you can get the Irish jockeys, the Irish amateurs, the big amateurs there. So that's one reason. I suggest another reason as well is the Irish National comes up sometimes pretty quick after Cheltenham. If you have an Irish stayer, you might want to stay for that. You know, if it's 2 weeks like it is this year, it's quite close. Easter, isn't it, the festival this year? The likes of Three Card Bragg are probably going to go for the Irish Grand National. He's going for the National Hunt Chase, but there's a lot of staying prospects that might just keep their powder dry for that. And even if you go back down the years, look at Discorama. I think he was the only Irish horse in the Ultima that year, and he ran a huge race. He was third the year to, I think, was it the Conditional that beat him that year? At least one of those races. And Fast or Slow, obviously, last year. So I wouldn't be against that at all. If there's an Irish horse in the race this year, I wouldn't be put off by that stat.
Lossiemouth, the Mayor's Hurdle. Only one of the last 16 winners of the Mayor's Hurdle hadn't previously won over 2 miles and 4 furlongs. White Oak, the last, back in 2008. Again, I thought this was interesting. I'm personally against this statistic. I think Lossiemouth wins this race and wins it well. Don't think the trip is going to be an issue. I think you were maybe questioning it once or twice on the series. Is this a stat you are going to be with, or do you oppose?
Again, I think 2.5 miles. With the new Mayor's program, a lot of the races seem to be at 2.5 miles. It's quite an intermediate distance. It kind of suits everyone, really. If you're having races, 2.5 miles seems to be like one that will attract the most horses, etc. So you can see why the stat comes up. Plenty of mares will have their runs in races over that sort of trip. Obviously, White Oak was the first horse or mare to win the Mayor's Hurdle, so you're basically going through the whole history of the race. But it's not a very old race either. With regards to Lossiemouth, yeah, you'd be slightly concerned with just the way she pulls over 2 miles, I think. And last day, her performance was all about speed, wasn't it? It was all about a turn of foot off a slow pace. Now, could she get a slow pace in the Mayor's Hurdle? Maybe. If they go faster, will that suit her? Possibly as well. Like there's ways you can look at it. If you want to be pro or against Lossiemouth, you could suggest, a fast pace could sort her out. I don't know. I think I'd still generally be, in the case of Lossiemouth, it would be more than a slight concern, I'd say, just the way she pulls over 2 miles. If she did that over 2.5 miles, surely that would, exasperate the problem even more, if you know what I mean. If she used to pull hard, and would she get home then up the hill? Especially if it was a fast run race, she might settle better, but then her stamina is into play. So I'd be slightly against Lossiemouth on those grounds for sure.
I thought you could mark up her performance in the Triumph Hurdle last year, given how hard she did pull. And look, I suppose it would be a slight concern, but at the same time, I'm with her, and I would be very much against that particular statistic on this occasion. Champion Chase. I thought this was an interesting one. 11 odds on favourites since the millennium, basically, in the Champion Chase, and only 3 of them have actually went on to win the race. Where's the context here?
The context is, I'm guessing, is that the Champion Chase 2 mile chaser. That's probably the most unique commodity in jumps racing, isn't it? Like you, so many horses either need a trip, or they're 2 miles over hurdles and maybe don't jump fences as well. So it's usually a small division or a small pool of good horses. So you can see why, if one of them wins, if you have a good one, and they win all around them all season, they're going to go in odds on. I find that I didn't actually know that only 3 of them have won. That is mad, isn't it? When you think about it, of 11, that's a huge underperformance. With regards to El Fabiolo, I mean, maybe that does raise concerns, doesn't it? Because we've said all season his jumping is an issue, isn't it? And in the white hot heat of a Cheltenham festival, where everybody is arriving there on their A game, or in theory should be arriving on their A game. Trainers are training more for Cheltenham these days than any time else, especially like Nicky Henderson with a jambon. This will be his Olympics, his absolute All-Ireland final, I suppose. Any sort of mistake could get punished, so maybe he'd be one to add to that stat.
It was the race that eluded WillieMullins, wasn't it, for a couple of seasons until Energumene went and actually won the race. But I think just looking at, there's a couple of other mad ones in the champion chase. Nico de Boinville going for his 4th race success, and it was interesting listening to him on the Racing Post preview last night. Basically said the words from Nico de Boinville. If anyone didn't see it, thought it was interesting. The champion chaser, you know, to be a championship chaser, you must be able to jump like a champion, and he didn't feel as though El Fabiola did. I just think this horse has so much ability. His cruising speed, he tanked through the race the hilly way earlier on the season down at Cork, and I mean, I think only they'd raced a mile and a half, and he was tanking the whole way. And for him to go and put in a performance like that, especially against the horses that were in the race against him, the likes of Mascada, who obviously is a Cheltenham Festival winner. Phil Dore is going to be a player for the Ryanair chase. That was a good race down the hilly way. And for him to put in that level of performance, given the fact that he was so free, I think, you know, it shows the engine that this horse has. And, I would, once again, for the 3rd time on this show, be against that statistic. This is one I would be with, Doyle and Ronan Groome, the cross country. Keith Donoghue has won 4 of the last 6 cross country chases. Speaking about WillieMullins cracking the code, when it comes to the champion chase, Keith Donoghue has definitely cracked the code when it comes to the cross country course.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's more of a nod to Gordon, isn't it? Really, Gordon has farmed this race. I think, hasn't he won 5 of the last 7, 6 of the last 7, of course, if you count when Denise Foster won it, basically taking over the country yard that year, of course. So he just knows what to do, Gordon, doesn't he, with these chasers? He's got a strong team this year: Cocoa Beach, Galvin, and obviously the dual winner Delta Works. So I guess then with Keith's record in the race, I wonder will Gordon be tempted to put him on the good one. But obviously Jack Kennedy's won the race on Delta Work before as well, so you'd imagine he has first dibs. But Keith obviously knows his way around the cross country, so it'd be no negative if he's riding your Gordon Elliott horse.
I suppose the one thing to say would be, and this is the way I've been looking at the race, if it's soft ground, it'll be Delta Work. If it's decent ground, you'd have to be with Galvin. I think ground probably more of a factor, but I tell you, it'd be no harm if Keith Donoghue was on your horse in the cross country.
I'd be very positive on Galvin now, just to come in there, because I haven't really talked about the cross country all series, but you'd have to be taken with his run the last day at Navan in a slowly run race. If he finished out the back there where Delta Work did, you'd say fair enough. He was on heavy ground, it was a prep run, etc. But he ran a fine race, you know, and he's obviously got Grade 1 form, and obviously got cross-country form as well. On decent ground, as you say, he'd have to be a huge player. I'm actually quite surprised Manella Indo is short as he is, and Gordon, one of Gordon's, isn't favourite. So, not that I know a huge amount about or get that.
Well, he's only had the one start around the cross-country course. An interesting trend as well as 15 of the last 19 winners of the cross country have previously raced on the course. Now, I know Manella Endo obviously has cross country experience. Cocoa Beach, that would have to be a concern for. He's never actually raced on the Cheltenham cross country, but it's an interesting one. I'll just have to wait and see. I wouldn't be playing it at this point in time because we'll have to see what the ground conditions will be like. Just an update actually on the ground, because I was just looking prior to coming on, Roland, and as we're speaking, Roland, 2 mils of rain tonight. Is currently soft to heavy ground. I think the cross country course in particular is meant to be much softer. Heavy's in the description, I think, on the cross country course. But from Tuesday, basically tomorrow till Sunday, it's dry the whole way. So the ground is going to dry. But I do see in our favourite Norwegian weather forecast channel, Ronan, that there's 8 mils due the day of race, the morning of racing. So in the early hours of the morning. So that's going to make a test, and you'll have to feel once again on the Tuesday for day 1 and obviously 4 mils due on Wednesday as well. So I think John Poulin did mention you're looking at soft ground. It's 2.8 on the exchanges for the ground description to be soft on day one of the Cheltenham Festival. Wouldn't put anyone off that now, having a little nibble on that. But yeah, listen, I suppose, look, the next one we have to discuss is the Brown Advisory statistic. And this is one that I'm going to be very much with also, Ronan. Only one of the last 22 winners of the Brown Advisory made their chasing debut over 3 miles and beyond. Now, obviously, Graham Downing looks like he's going to go for the turners now, so it doesn't apply to him. But in that same race at Exeter, on their first start was Stay Away Faye, who for me I think might just lack that tactical pace that you might need on a tighter track. He obviously won in the new course and was given an aggressive ride by Harry Cobden, but in a Brown Advisory it's going to be tactical. It's a tighter track, and I just feel he might lack the tactical pace. The Real Whacker was given an aggressive ride in it last year, but I think that's a stat now to follow. Thoughts?
Yeah, and just on the Real Whacker though, didn't he win over 2.5 miles earlier in the season? So at least he did prove himself some sort of speed. Like he did have that sort of speed thing, which attests to what you're saying there. Yeah, so which attests to what you're saying there. So I completely see where you're coming from, and that is possibly an interest, because after Stay Away Faye had won at was it Exeter, he won first time up. There was chat about the National Hunt Chase. Even Paul Nicholls was mentioning that as a possibility. And I do see where you're coming from with regard to that. And I suppose naturally in Ireland, at the start of the season, there isn't many 3 mile novice chases around. And it's a natural kind of progression for trainers to start off over 2.5 miles. Maybe that plays into it as well. But then again, on the other side, they have that proven ability, like Fact to File, and obviously the big the 2 mile 5 at the Dublin Racing Festival that leads on from the beginners chase at Leopardstown, which is also over 2 mile 5. That's quite a popular route, isn't it? WillieMullins likes that. He did the same with Monkfish, didn't he? So yeah.
But I think if I owned an exciting horse going chasing, and there were eventually going to be a 3 miler, I'd like to see them starting off over 2.5 or even 2-3 and gradually step them up in trip. Whereas, when you start off at 3, do you know what I mean? It's unlikely probably you're going to come back in trip. So it's one I'm following in terms of, I just think Fact to File will have too much class for Stay Away Faye in the Brown Advisory. I think the clues were maybe earlier in the season. You might have known that, but there's a clue in how they've been campaigned, in my view. Pertemps final, only 2 of the last 22 winners have actually won a qualifier. Again, that's another big stat. I'd rather, be peaking at Cheltenham than showing your full hand earlier on in the season, especially in this series. And you can run into, as we seen last year, some very, very, very well handicapped horses coming from the likes of Tony Martin's yard. Gordon Elliott has a good record in the race. But I think Nicky Henderson, as we know in the series, I'm quite keen on Chantry House, yet to win this season. And I don't think we've seen his full maybe ability over hurdles this year as of yet.
This is a very interesting one, Basil. You might throw it up on screen there again, just as I can explain. So 20, that makes sense, doesn't it? Only 2 of the last 22, because it's a plot race, basically, isn't it? Trainers just put their, they want to get qualified. They don't want to show their full hand to the handicapper. They want to get into the race via qualification. And it used to be the top 8. So you could basically just run on a qualifier. And often the case would be you just have to beat a few home to get qualified. So it was very easy to cover up what you actually had. But now it's not that case. It gets down to 4 places now. And there's qualifiers obviously in both Ireland and Britain, and apparently in France as well. I didn't even know that. I don't think we've had a French trained horse in the Pertemps in a while, or there has been a paucity of them anyway. But now it's harder to qualify. I think last year it didn't even fill out, or just about filled out. So basically everything that qualified got in. So I think you might see that change in the future. You might see a few more winners, because basically now you just need to get into the race or finish in the top 4 and you're guaranteed a run. And with the top 4s, it's harder to actually protect your mark as such. You can't. It's a lot more chicanery, put it that way, to get into a top 4 without going up or being seen by the handicapper, the British handicapper anyway. So I think you might see a difference now.
Just ones that it rules out obviously this year: Gate Queel, Cuthbert Dibble, they've all won. Even Springwell Bay has won a race this season. There's quite a few of them there. Like obviously Noel Burt was a winner at Naas. Cletus Pulov in his second. And I know you quite like one in this race. We might come to that later on, but it's interesting. I think that's a stat definitely to follow.
I wouldn't just to use your example there, Basil. I wouldn't let that anyone put me off Guay Coyle just because he's won or she has won a Pertemps qualifier. They finished more or less in line that day, didn't they? It wasn't a Farouk Delaine and 9 Graces, I think, at Leopardstown. Like, there's no difference there. Like, the handicapper's seen that. There's no real difference between what they did there. They're all handicapped to probably to finish within close to each other again. I don't think it makes a huge difference if she's won the race, to be honest.
Okay, well, when we come back from the break, we've 4 more stats to look at, and we obviously have we have episode number 17 selections to get into the team sheet, and a little bit of news as well for those flat racing fans following about Gowran Park.
Granger and Patrick Mullins.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front was ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, Silver Lark. That'll be the finishing order.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, if you want €50 off your first share with Syndicates.Racing, simply go onto the website, Syndicates.Racing, pick your horse, very reasonable amount of money. You can own yourself, own part of a racehorse, and you get the discount by typing into the checkout discount bar there, Champ, all caps, to apply and get that discount of €50 off your first share in the racehorse with Syndicates.Racing. Just to mention as well, for Gowran Park, we mentioned obviously the Racing and Rugby Day. Not my cup of tea, this rugby stuff, Ronan Groome, but nonetheless, 33% off if you fancy getting down to Gowran Park. Early bird offer applies. Scan the QR code up on screens and get yourself to the Gowran Park Racecourse on the 9th of March. Also to mention as well, Eddie has asked me to let, I suppose, flat fans who are watching the show in on a little bit of news. Obviously, the Gowran Classic, a £200, a €200 race, obviously announced for the June Bank Holiday weekend, Ronan, and it's going to be fantastic down there. Obviously, the winner, the big thing to mention is gets an automatic entry into the Irish Derby. So very exciting for Gowran to have that upcoming on obviously the June Bank Holiday weekend. Sunshine in Kilkenny. I could think of nothing better, Ronan Groome, than hitting up Rinicini's Riccardo, that nice Italian across from the castle. Maybe on the Sunday night, if you want to maybe bring your partner, it's obviously get dressed up for the day on that Bank Holiday Monday. But the night before, head to Rinicini's across from the castle and drinks in Langton. And you can always get the bus, obviously, on the Monday from the shuttle bus from Langton's into obviously Gowran Park, which would be fantastic. And a meal in the top of the restaurant bar, Ronan Groome, looking out on Gowran Park Racecourse. What a fantastic day that would be. Right, let's move on with our statistics. The plate handicap. I thought again this was interesting because novices have a particularly good record in the plate handicap, and 18 of the last 22 plate winners have carried effectively less than 11 stone, 10 stone, 13 or less. I'm with this again because, as I said, novices have a good record in the race. So if you can creep in right down the bottom of the weights. Now, you like Cribilli for the plate. I think he's rated 140. Is that correct? He'll have a nice racing
140,
weight.
yeah.
140. So if you can creep in as an unexposed novice, awful lightweight, again, the numbers don't lie. 18 of the last 22 plate winners have carried 10 stone, 13 or less. And once again, novices or second season chasers. I think definitely this is a stat to follow. Obviously, last year set and booked the trend, but I think going forward, it's definitely a stat to be with.
I think so, yeah. Especially when the novices handicap chase is taken out now. There's no option for those novices, isn't there? You got to run it here if you want to get a run over that 2.5 mile intermediate trip. And it does make sense, doesn't it, the stat when you're looking at it that way, because you're dealing with horses. That 2.5 mile trip is very unique to Cheltenham, and the same horses tend to run there all year, don't they? But by the time it gets to Cheltenham, they're quite exposed. I can think of a two off the top of my head this year would be like Il Rodotto and Fugitive. Didn't they fight out the finish earlier on there in one of the December meeting? But by the time you get to Cheltenham, they're well seen by the handicapper, and it's often then you get these novices coming in who have loads of scope to progress and might as well. There's a good novice program for over the 2.5 miles at Cheltenham on the new and old course during the season as well, and they might have been able to show their prowess over the track. That's what attracted me to Crivelli. Basically, he had good form with Ginny's Destiny over 2.5 miles, jumping alongside that horse at the last. Ginny's Destiny's worth rated 155 now, and he's rated 140 just 2 runs later, and he won last time out against Tamuris, which form looks quite good as well. So I think he could have a few pounds in hand, and he's progressing, and he has proven form around the trip. So I think he ticks a lot of boxes.
This is going to be an interesting one now, Ronan Groome. We're going to move on to the Mayor's novices hurdle, should I say, where obviously all the rage at the moment is brighter days ahead, but she's going to have to buck this trend. The Mayor's novices hurdle, the last 5 favourites, all unplaced. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's probably because it's a big field, isn't it? It's quite popular race now. Lots of people have mares now. It's more mares have become more attractable to buy, and a lot of mares will get into this field when it's a bigger field. That means more luck, more chance of one popping up out of nowhere, etc. Like You Wear It Well probably came through last season, caused a bit of a surprise. And, there's probably limited evidence, mares can look good early in the season, win by wide margins, etc. And then they get found out in a proper race or a properly run race in a big field at Cheltenham. So I'd subscribe to that trend. Yeah, I'd definitely take it on board.
Albert Bartlett, this is an interesting one. 11 of the last 12 Albert Bartlett winners were proven winners over 2 mile and 6 furlong. Again, Lecky Watson, he thinks quite a lot of boxes for the Albert Bartlett. We have him in the team sheet at 25-1. But I think this is interesting. I think your horse needs to be, well, traditionally the Albert Bartlett, you need to have decent graded form. You need to be able to, you need to be a proven stayer, and you need to have the right amount of runs, i.e. 3 or 4 runs over hurdles. I just think this is definitely another stat that I would be with. And especially in a race like the Albert Bartlett, the rough to tumble, it can be, this can throw up horses at big prices. And I think this stat in particular is something that you need to consider.
I'd agree. Absolutely. I think this trip is probably a lot of the runners are facing it for the first time, or at least facing a very tough race over it for the first time. I think a lot's been kind of said about, the likes of Monkfish, Manila Endo winning an Albert Bartlett. And now people are saying, maybe you don't need a real rock. Maybe the unexposed type can come true. And I don't know. I think with Monkfish and Manila Indo, you're dealing with stars. I think if you get an unexposed winner of an Albert Bartlett, you have a real superstar in your hands. Like obviously Manila Indo went on to do what he did. He won a Gold Cup. Monkfish, the ball just didn't hop for him injuries wise. But he was a pretty good novice chaser the next season. I think this season you'd be hard pressed to suggest there is a star there, though one could easily come true. If there's no star, I think then you need to revert back to type. You need this kind of battle-hardened novice, proven over 3 miles always helps. And the problem with it now, I guess, Basil, is there's lots of horses that have that profile, but they also have handicap marks that could let them to go down the road of like Martin Pipe, etc. And they can get into those races. Like I'm interested in a few Gordon Elliott novice hurdlers, but they could end up in the Martin Pipe off the marks that they're off. So the advice would be to just stay. There's no point, and to be honest, all Ante-Post value is probably taken up now anyway, but the advice would be now is just to hold fire until the day. And it's often a race that you get a double figure price in. So if you want to have a crack at and have maybe 2 or 3 on side at big prices on the day, Albert Bartlett is a good race for that, and definitely value in that kind of proven form over 3 miles, I think is a good recipe here. Right.
Just back to that, Roland, because obviously there's a couple here to consider. Reading Tommy Wrong stepping up in trip, not proven over the trip. Obviously, did come from the point to point. sphere, and he's second in a point-to-point, but not actually proven over the distance, stepping up from 2 mile 4. He shapes like he'll stay, but again, he's not proven over the distance. High-class hero, another one that says stepping up, more so in grade. Obviously, he was a winner over 2 mile and 6, so he obviously ticks the box there. But Gidley Park, he's one that I would be fearful of stepping up and trip, especially at this stage in his career. I think he's a lot more pace than maybe people give him credit for. Captain Teague, I think he'll stay all day, but there's a couple in here. Lecky Watson, I think, ticks so many boxes for the race, as we keep saying. Right, Gold Cup. Only 2 of the last 22 winners had more than 13 chase starts over fences. I like this. I like fast or slow. He's only had 7 runs over fences in his career. I think the big thing when it comes to winning Gold Cups is low enough mileage, Ronan Groome.
Yeah, I think this one speaks to a stat that everyone or kind of associates, or everyone's narrative what a Gold Cup winner is. This one kind of nods towards that, isn't it? You know, you need a lightly raced horse, or a horse is having their first run in a Gold Cup, have a good record, etc. And that's obviously leads into Galloping the Champ going back to defend his title. You know, it's a difficult thing to do. Album Photo got away with it, I suppose. I don't want to talk him down or anything. He won a Gold Cup fair and square the first year. The second year he went back, it was a very muddling race, wasn't it? It wasn't really true test. Maybe that just helped him over the line. And his lightly race campaign possibly as well. But Galloping the Champ has had an absolute full-out campaign, and we love that, fair play. But going back to Cheltenham now over the
at even money.
Even money as well. That's what you have to take about this thing. So that I'd be against him. And plus the fact that he's against a whole host of horses who tick the trend, you know, or lightly race still like Jerry Colon, fast or slow, Gentleman's Game, outsiders like that. They all fit that kind of billing as second season chasers that having their go at the Gold Cup for the first time. Full of beans, full of life, ready to give it their all, and trained for the third as well. You know, well, not Shishkin. Shishkin's kind of a unique one, isn't he? But
he's 10 years of age. There's only been one 10-year-old winner in the last 30 years, and Shishkin has had 15 runs over fences. So probably reasonably lightly raced for a 10-year-old horse. But again, you'd like to be maybe siding with the likes of Fast or Slow. 8 years of age, just 7 runs over fences, steadily progressing. Even Jerry Colon, look, I'm not a big fan of Jerry. I think I've made it known. I think he's too slow to win a Gold Cup. But again, he's only had 7 starts over fences. I think, you know, obviously that's a plus for him. Yeah, it's just interesting. I think it's a stat I would definitely be keeping on side anyway. That is for sure. Right, Ronan Groome, after this, we're going to be giving our episode 17 selections on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. If you haven't updated your portfolio, make sure to do so. And as well as that, we want to get to 3,000 subscribers. So subscribe if you're not already. And as I keep saying, Ronan Groome, only 40% of our viewership this season overall are actually subscribed to the show. So please do so. It always helps us out, and give the old video a like. Update your portfolio down below, and we'll be back with our episode 17 selections after this.
Granger and Patrick Mullins.
McGree has justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front, waiting for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western Victory Silverland. That'll be the finishing order.
Yeah, I got for Gabby's Cross in the Pertemps. I like this Henry de Bromhead horse a lot. I've gone a lot with Henry de Bromhead in the last couple of weeks, but for good reason. Henry always gets them ready well for the festival. Obviously, a fantastic meeting last year. And I think he might have just primed this Gabby's Cross very nicely indeed. The handicapper's taken quite a positive view of what he did in his Pertemps qualifier at Punchestown back in November. Jody Ted was the winner there. You remember Jody Ted went off favourite, well back favourite for the Paddy Power. He was actually well in over on his hurdles mark that day at Punchestown. He beat Gabby's Cross. I think the form of the race just worked out quite strong. Alpa Shaman was in the race as well as one since. And the handicapper's taken quite a positive view, and I've taken quite a positive view of it as well. Even though Gabby's Cross got £4 from the Irish handicapper on the day, and he's got £6 on top of that since from the BHA handicapper. he's still £7 lower over his when you compare it to his chase mark. And he's never really jumped fences that well at all. So back over hurdles, I think, is fine for him. He just hasn't had the opportunity to show his quality that he's kind of done all his progression over fences, and now he's had a chance to come back over hurdles and show just how good he is. And I think he's well handicapped. I think he bumped into a very well handicapped horse in Jody's Head last day, and they basically said, right, we're just going to train this horse for the Pertemps now. We're going to get a good mark. And we know we stay 3 miles well. We know we're possibly even better over hurdles, or at least as good over fences. And that's been the thinking so far. So I think he's been primed up for the day. Like, plenty of them will be, but I think 12 to 1 is a fair enough price for all the things I've just discussed and above. So he's the latest going to my team.
Yeah, and Chris Neville, a good follower of the show, is actually asking us just in the DMs where exactly to find the Champ.ie price boost. So I can tell you the Ante-Post section on the Boylesports website, and obviously you have Cheltenham Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, Day 4. You have the Countdown Extra Markets, National Hunt, additional markets, and you have Ante-Post price boost section, and under that Champ.ie price boost. So you can avail of that offer on both of our selections once again on that part of the Boylesports website. Right, Ronan Groome, I'm opposing you. I'm going to the plate, and I'm going with a horse called Theatre Man. And I think 7 to 1 is more than fair. Look, it's been strong in the market in the last couple of days. It's entered, obviously, in the Ultima as well. But I think they're going to go this route. And I think Harry Cobden could be on board as well. He's been given the offer anyway by connections, and he certainly wouldn't be a negative. Obviously, Harry Cobden can be very, very effective, I think, in particular from the front, Ronan. Gets the fractions, I think the 2.5 mile trip, you've alluded to this on many occasions on the series, is quite a specialised trip, not just for the horse, but for the jockey as well. And he gets the fractions absolutely spot on. Theatre Man is a horse. I've loved the way he's been campaigned this year. He's raced twice at Newbury over fences, and obviously came home with a rattle over the 2.5 miles in the new course behind Ginny's Destiny when last seen, and he was a big eye catcher in the race, but I just loved the way the ground he makes up at his fences. He's quite a quick jumper, and I just think he's a strong stay in 2.5 miler, which is exactly what you're going to need for this particular race. A strong pace. If he's given an aggressive ride, up there in the front 2 or 3, I think he's an absolutely massive chance. And if he can hold his position, his jumping holds up, which it has done to date. Watching back the 3 of his chase starts, I don't think I can even count one mistake that he's made. I think 4 out, he made a mistake last time out against Ginny's Destiny, but the way he came up the hill, he absolutely devoured it. A mark of 137, that'll mean he'll, obviously we mentioned the stat for the plate, under 11 stone. He'll get a nice racing weight of 137. Trainer's in decent form. Obviously Richard Badley at 40% at the moment, 2 winners from his last 5. Stable and decent enough form. And just looking at the race as a whole, I think there's plenty of deadwood in the race, Roland. You mentioned Cribilli. My concern with Cribilli would be his jumping. He was running a fine race, and off levels, I think he was going to win first time out when he tipped up. But his jumping, I think, went to pot very much in his second start over fences. Improved a little bit at Exeter the last time. I just wonder with his jumping, and I love the way Theatre Man came up the hill. To me, the race, even though it should be a competitive handicap around Cheltenham, it has the look of an A versus B scenario. I think both of the front and second in the market will be big players on the day. And I think 7 to 1, I think there's juice in that. I could see this horse, especially if Harry Cobden is confirmed and jocked up, I could see this horse going off close enough to favourite. So, Theatre Man, 7 to 1. What did you make of him? Form looks good behind Ginny's Destiny, who, and of course, he's was he 3 to 1, 4 to 1 for the plate or for the turners?
Yeah, it's a very similar case to what I made with Cribilli. I suppose it's even more solid. I suppose if you take the fact that they ran in that race, that Ginny's Destiny's won was the same race Stage Star won last season. If you go back, Simply the Bets won it in 2020. I just have it in front of me here now, and went on to win this race, exactly the plate. Back in 2018, Mr. Whitaker won here and then went on to win the Novices Handicap Chase when it was still at the festival. So obviously a pretty good guide. That's obvious because it's over the 2.5 miles on a new course. So proven form there, lightly raced. I'd say if you missed the boat on Crebilly, this would be a nice option for you into the race. Because Crebilly is a 4-1 chance now, general. So 7-1 about this fella with a nice profile. He's in the Ultima as well, but you'd imagine they'd go here with all I just said there, the 2.5 mile kind of proven form. But
I think I think an aggressive ride. Harry Cobden over 2.5 miles at Cheltenham on the Thursday on the new course. Where he's making lengths at his fences, which he has done on each of his 4 starts. He might have just run into one last time, and obviously we'll be watching the Turners earlier on the Thursday to see how Ginny's Destiny gets on. But I think this race, we mentioned the novices have a good record. 7 of the last 8 winners were either novices or second season chasers. He was progressive over hurdles last year as well. So quite like him. 8 years of age, son of Okavango. The ground, I think, drying out as well later on in the week. Fingers crossed. I think will probably suit him as well. He's that type of profile. He's out of a King's Theatre mare. Obviously appreciated nice ground. And Okavango progeny seemed to appreciate a little bit of nicer ground. So 7-1. Get involved, obviously, over on the Boylesports website if you want to follow us in. And we'll stress that as well, only if you agree with our selections. But Ronan Groome, I think we're in a decent enough position to come out 4 years on the bounce in Ante-Post Profit. And just looking at your selections, I think you were being a little bit hard on yourself. We're not going to go through them all now, but I think you were being a little bit hard on yourself. They're going to run in the races. And also as well, just to mention, Salvador Mundi, the mystery horse, still entered. And I think he's going to run by the sounds of it.
That'll be a turn up for the books. He's got the form with Sergino, I suppose. So, don't worry. Willie seems to be very liberal with his juvenile hurdlers, doesn't he? He'll run them anywhere. He'll run them first time out, no problem. So, didn't he do it that 1 year? It was horse he ran in the Triumph?
Hot and Calora finished third in the exact same silk. So
there you go.
Yeah, there's maybe life still in that docket, but it's getting interesting. Obviously, on the eve, we'll run through all our selections once again. We'll be back tomorrow with a very quick fire episode. It'll just be our selections with the enhancements for episode number 18. We're back on Wednesday. Don't forget with the Q&A. So get your questions in for Wednesday's episode down below, and we'll make sure to answer as many as we can leading up to Cheltenham. And on the eve of Cheltenham, then in Ronan Groome, we will be announcing the winner of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge viewer competition for the healthiest looking portfolio. I know we spoke about this, and there was debate in the comments. Should it be to whoever has the most winners? Let us know what you think maybe for next year. But we're going to stick to our word this year. Whoever we think has the healthiest looking book, in the comments down below, we will award the trip to the VIP trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival. Last year, of course, was won by Paddy Connolly, good follower of the show, good hurler, I believe, as well, down in County Meath. Ronan, I don't know, are you familiar with his work? But Paddy was the winner of the competition last year, and we look forward to announcing the new winner of the challenge, the viewer challenge, on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival. So fingers crossed. Let us know. Get involved in the comments down below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. See you tomorrow.